Good morning, period two. Hello, Amy. Hello, Tasnin. Good morning to you as well. I hope you're having a spectacular morning Monday. I'm going to brew a little tea. Give me a sec. The water just finished boiling, although I hope it's not too hot. There we go. I am drinking a new tea today, which I don't have as much experience with brewing, so I'm trying to be very particular and careful not to spill it because it's I don't know, its form is a little bit unique. But I hope everybody's warm and perhaps drinking something equally as delicious or unique. It is. It's a cold day. I mean, I camp out in my office slash nursery right next to the window, but right now the thermometer reads 65 degrees, which is fine for me. You'll always see me in a t-shirt. I'm never cold. But my brand new baby daughter, who is often in this room after school hours, could get quite chilly. So stay warm if you are prone to the cold. Hello, Akali. Good morning. Do you wanna take a look at what I'm drinking? It's pretty interesting. This is the first time I've ever bought a brick of tea. It's as hard as a brick. You can literally build with these things. And you need like a saw to actually open it up. It looks like, let's see, it's 300 grams of tea pressed into a brick. It's known as fu cha or hei cha, and it's fermented and it has a substance that grows in it that's referred to as golden mold, and it gives the tea like a really nice sweet and sour taste to it, which I'm still getting used to. But I think this is not the highest of quality tea. The last one I had was much more expensive, and I can see why now, because there's a huge difference in the taste. But I'm gonna drink this and try my best to enjoy it nonetheless. But how about we talk about what we're gonna be learning about today? Because it's not all about tea. Although I love this part. I like to get to know all of you as well, and I'm looking forward to doing class show and tell, perhaps right before winter break. That would be a lot of fun. Tea can cost anything. Like I've been known to spend some good money on tea, but this is like really cheap tea. This whole brick of tea was $10 for like 300 grams. But I also have tea that I've spent like $20 on 30 grams. So some tea I've spent $20 on 30 grams, and this is $10 on 300 grams. It really all depends. But you can buy teas that cost tens of thousands of dollars. It's just like wine, I guess. Like you hear people spending like tons of money on wine, or you can buy a bottle of wine for $3 at Trader Joe's. So it's kind of the same thing. Um, okay. So we have a really interesting headline of the day today for two reasons. First, there's someone in the news that we've been talking about, um, and he's back in the news for a completely different reason. Perhaps you've heard, or there was another interesting story that you've came across in the news recently that connects to politics and government. So if that's the case, if you have something to share that's newsworthy, or you think what today's headline of the day might be, put it in the chat. And then I'm going to give you some time to do your test corrections today, specifically the multiple choice. So I've released your test scores. Those have been shared with you, even though you knew your grades already. And you can go back and you can see the questions that you got right and wrong. And if you got a question wrong, you can see the correct answer. And I'm going to give you some time to work on that. I'm also going to help you with questions that you're still having trouble understanding as well. Okay. Does anybody have a sense of what they think the headline of the day might be? Should I do a drum roll? Why is this not moving? Sorry. I wasn't meaning there to be this much anticipation. My computer's just reacting slow. So have any of you heard of this? So Rudy Giuliani, who we were talking about extensively last week, coincidentally, but maybe not surprisingly, has tested positive for coronavirus. Did any of you hear about this? Or is this new to you? Is the news new? Thank you for letting me know, Tasman. And thank you for the drum roll. I appreciate the drum roll. Okay. And why were we talking about Rudy Giuliani before? Hopefully you can all answer that. Why were we talking about Rudy Giuliani before? When I guess he was coronavirus free. Why was he so relevant to the story? He's Trump's lawyer, right? He's Trump's lawyer, and he's been advising Trump how he can use his pardon power, right? Which is his power to give you a get out of jail free card and maybe preemptively give you a get out of jail free card if you committed a crime, but you haven't been indicted or charged with the crime yet. So he wants to pardon himself from the president. He wants the president to perhaps pardon his children so they can't go to jail for any crimes committed while they were acting on his behalf. And also, he was advising the president perhaps if he could, in fact, pardon himself, because it does not say in the Constitution that you can't do that. It just says the president. It's very implicit that the president has the power to pardon. The only exception is he can't pardon someone for impeachment. Doesn't say anything about pardoning yourself. No one's actually tried it before, but perhaps that won't stop Trump, and perhaps there is a way that he can least controversially pardon himself. So, in addition to Giuliani having COVID, there's another caveat to the story because Giuliani feels pretty secure that he might have figured out the best legal strategy for Trump pardoning himself. It wouldn't be he doesn't really need the same he's not putting the same emphasis in terms of him. It would be very easy. Trump could just go onto Twitter and say, I would like to pardon my lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. It's that simple. He's done that previously. But to pardon himself, he might need to put a little bit more thought into the procedures that he would take to do that. And I think my computer is being slow again because I pressed that button. Come on. My computer is sleepy. Oh, I don't want to go to that yet because I want you to think about this first. So, perhaps Trump's new legal plan for pardoning himself will connect to an area of the Constitution that we don't talk about all that much, and that is the 25th Amendment to the Constitution. And there's 4 sections of that, and I put up section 3 because that's the one that's most relevant to perhaps how Trump will pardon himself. And the 25th Amendment relates to this idea of succession. If the president can't carry out his duties, whether he's sick, whether he's dead, who takes over? So we all know that, right, the next person in line is the vice president. So think about that, because maybe that connects to this question of how Trump can best pardon himself. And then you have a whole slew of other people. Like, if all these other people die, if you're Secretary of Education, you could become President of the United States. And it's kind of strange that Secretary of Education is above the Secretary of Homeland Security. So I'd think, I don't know, I might feel better off if I knew that the president was the Secretary of Homeland Security as opposed to the Secretary of Education. But who knows? Okay. So read over this. When the president transmits to the president pro tempore of the Senate or the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that he's unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, and until he transmits them to a written declaration of the contrary, meaning, I'm okay again, I can take on the powers of the president again, such powers and duties shall be discharged by the vice president as acting president. That is the text of the Constitution, 25th Amendment. Based upon what I just read, could you develop a legal strategy for the least controversial way? And when I say controversial, like it could be challenged in court, the Supreme Court, that Trump can pardon himself. How might Trump use this to his advantage to obtain a pardon for himself? I'm going to give you a few moments to think about that, because I would love for you to develop a hypothesis. It's an interesting thought exercise. Hello, Adesina. I missed your hello in the chat box. You have any thoughts on this? I'll give you 10 more seconds of thought time, and then I would love to hear if you have a prediction about how Trump can use this to pardon himself. Amy, you want to do a drum roll? Okay, I'll tell you. See, my computer's destroying the suspense because I already pressed the button. Until see? Okay. Is there a way Trump might try to engineer a more clearly legal pardon for himself? He could get Vice President Mike Pence to do it for him using the 25th Amendment, right? So it says in the text of Section 3, I've just put it back, right? If the president's unable to carry out his duties, so let's say the president had to go get some dental work done, and he was sedated as he got a tooth pulled or something, right? He could then, sign a piece of paper saying, I'm temporarily granting the powers of the president to the vice president because I am unconscious, right? And then Mike Pence, perhaps as his only act as president, could use his pardon power, right, granted in the Constitution, to pardon Donald Trump. And then as Donald Trump awakes from dental surgery, right, and is no longer sedated, he resumes the power of the president. And that is, it seems as if, 100% legally sound. Perhaps that would be the least likely way that this could be challenged effectively in court if this was to be done. And it would be the icing on the cake, probably for Trump, if he did in fact go this route to grant himself a pardon. Imagine this. He could do it minutes before Biden takes the oath of office. So literally, he doesn't go to Biden's inauguration, and he, I don't know, gets sedated or whatever, and then again, Mike Pence will become president. This is his last act as vice president, is to pardon Trump right before, minutes before Biden is sworn in and takes the oath of office. Crazy, right? I mean, it just blows your mind. But again, it directly connects to the powers of the president and what is stated in the 25th Amendment. And so this has been talked about. There was a memo in 1947 by this person, Miss Lawton, who talked about doing the same thing. How this would be probably the most legal route for a president to go ahead and pardon himself. It's not to say that it can't be challenged, but or that this will actually happen. But it seems as if perhaps if Trump did take this route to grant himself a pardon, it might hold up in the courts because it doesn't seem to directly contradict the rules and procedures and powers granted by the US Constitution. So I always want you to keep this in mind. Politics is a game, and the game is very much often chess. And the way is to use the rules and the strategies to win the game. So perhaps this is Trump's chess move. We shall see. Any other questions about that? So it seems like some of you are kind of a little blown away by this, and that's good. That's good. Okay. What are we going to do next? So I said we were going to focus on test corrections today. I promised you that, right? You have the opportunity to do test corrections for our first test, our midterm. That switches when we have the final exam. Final exam, by this point, you've had practice and you should be able to answer the vast majority of these questions. And many of you did really, really well in the midterm. It was awesome to see how well you did on the midterm. And I posted, let me go back to Google Classroom. All right, period 2. So if you go to classwork, this was what I posted prior to first period, test corrections. And if you go to just the instructions, you're going to open up this document that's linked that says test corrections, multiple choice, and essay. Tomorrow we'll focus on the essay. Today you're going to focus on the multiple choice. Yeah, so every test is cumulative. So on the final exam, Amy, I'm glad you noticed that. The final exam will have some questions from your first test, your midterm, and also some new questions related to our new unit of study that we're going to start for marking period 3 on the criminal justice system. So here's a little model of a test correction. It should be between 2 to 3 sentences, and you need to explain why the correct answer is correct. So today, as you're working on your test corrections, you are going to put them underneath here. And then tomorrow, when you're doing your essay corrections and revisions, you're going to put it here. No need to resubmit your essay or resubmit your multiple choice test, which I don't think you can. You're just going to put everything into this document. And I just want to go over 2 questions for you because I noticed you can take a look at the results, right? So only about 60% of students got this question right, and even less, 57% got this question right. So there seems to be some misunderstanding in regards to representative democracy and direct democracy. But this question is also tricky as well. So direct democracy means that people are directly voting on laws, right? And we didn't really have any of those on November 3rd in New York, but we looked at all the other ones in many other states, right? So in Mississippi, they got to vote on if they wanted a new state flag because they had a Confederate flag, attached to their state flag. In New Jersey, they voted for marijuana to be legalized, all those things. Those are known as state ballot referendum or measures, okay? And that's direct democracy. People voting on laws instead of people voting on people that choose the laws, because that's representative democracy. Representative democracy is when you vote for a person to represent you, and then they have the power to make laws. And so what's tricky about this is which is the best example of direct democracy? Because many of these are direct democracy, but they're many of these are representative democracies, but they're indirect representative democracies. So it's not just like the citizen voting for a person who makes the laws. There's other steps in between. So for instance, the Electoral College, 21% of people chose the Electoral College. It's representative democracy, but people are voting for a president, and then the Electoral College has final say. So there's like the people are 2 steps removed, okay, from the president. So this wouldn't be the best example of representative democracy. We said this is direct democracy, so I'm glad this is the answer that was least chosen. But this is direct democracy, not representative democracy. Nominating members to the Supreme Court. Okay, so again, citizens don't vote on the Supreme Court. They vote for a president, and then the president has to nominate someone, and the Senate has to confirm it. So again, it's 2 steps away, removed from the people, just like the Electoral College and electing the president. Choosing a district attorney for Manhattan. That is someone that people directly vote for. So he said the president gets to appoint federal judges, but other state and local judges are voted on by the people. So, not next week. Well, actually, yes, it is next week. Next week we will be invited to our class. Will be an assistant district attorney, somebody that works for Cyrus Vance, the district attorney of Manhattan, who prosecutes defendants for crimes, and we're going to talk to them and learn all about our criminal justice system through someone that actually prosecutes criminals for the city of New York. And her boss, Cyrus Vance, was voted on by the people of New York, or specifically the people of Manhattan, because there's a district attorney in different boroughs as well. Okay? So that is the best example of representative democracy, because we vote for that person. And there's no like additional steps in between. Okay, so that's how you would do it. Test correction. What's the answer? Because 2 to 3 sentences why. And you have the rest of class today to work on that. And what I suggest you do, if you have a question that you don't understand the answer to, just copy and paste it, put it in the chat, and then I can go over it with you. That'd be the best way to do that. Okay, so this is your class time to work on your multiple choice question test corrections.